Chapter 9. Carrie was afraid for him, and carefully looked at the water. Air bubbles appeared on the smooth surface. At the moment he surfaced, and began to call for help. Carrie! Carrie! Why are you floundering there? Maybe you'll get out already. No, help me, it's deep here, it's hard for me to get out. Wait, can't you swim to shore? You can't swim. That's the trouble if he drowns. Carrie quickly dived under the water after him, grabbed his hand, and with a deft movement pulled his body out of the water, even though it was very hard for her, but she coped. While she was dragging him to the shore, she realized that the current was stronger and she might not have enough strength. Unexpectedly for her, her hands began to burn, and the strength returned to her hands in a large size. A spark flew into the tree, there was a crash, an explosion occurred. While Griselda was doing household chores, a loud sound was heard outside the window, and this explosion could be seen right in the castle. She was terribly scared. What happened there? With the help of Carrie's power, only the root remained of the tree, the rest fell down, and she easily reached the shore. Urko was still unconscious, it was necessary to save the guy. She brought the decision to do a heart massage, and it helped. Once again her pressing on the chest, he coughed. All the water came out, and he greedily began to swallow air, but he was still unconscious. This situation made the two of them think. Carrie started to say something. You know, honestly. Urko, being unconscious, began to remember a moment from his childhood. He was small again, in the north, with his parents. Son, Urko, can I not worry? Are you sure you can handle it yourself? Communicate. If something goes wrong, be sure to inform the leader of the village. Don't worry, father, I'll be back very soon and we'll see each other again. He opened his eyes, the sun blinded him, but around he saw neither the shore nor the trees. Erko. You've already come to your senses. Where are we? I fell into the lake. How did I end up here? What about the horse? It took him a while to come to his senses and realize what was happening. It was getting dark outside, and the sunset was blooming like a bright flower in the sky. Evening at sunset is the time when the sky turns red, pink and orange shades, as if it is burning with fire. The sun is slowly sinking below the horizon, leaving behind a long streak of light, which seems to indicate that all is not lost yet. Where is Fina? Stop this commotion, I've decided everything. I asked you to take the horse to the boy in the village. Don't worry, Maxim will see Finn very soon. Urko carefully looked at the horse cart, and noticed that it was breathing and moving. Fina is alive, she's breathing. Suddenly, at the moment the boy Maxim ran up to the cart, there was endless joy on his face. This whole situation brought Urko to a frank dialogue. Carrie, you know, and I didn't even manage to take my parents on their last journey. I didn't have time to say goodbye to them, they died somewhere in the mountains. Once again when they went to treat the warriors, there was still a battle going on, so I didn't even guess, and I didn't even know right away that they were no longer alive. Carrie stared at the cart and the horse and remembered Urko's words. Let's help him, so that Max can say goodbye to her, see her eyes. Urko interrupted this thought. Yes, I know that a horse with injured legs is hard, especially for a little boy from the village, but she loves her so much, and is happy that she lives, and that he looks at her. They silently watched the cart that was standing at the gate. Despite the stormy day, tonight was calm and peaceful. On such evenings, you realize that no matter what difficulties you encounter on the way, you can cope with everything. Meanwhile, in the castle, the old king, who had lost all his former power, was slowly dying on his throne, remembering the bad words of the Night of the Sun. Hilda! Hilda, how could you do this? You kicked out the entire royal family that I sent you here, and you're playing games, dressing up as a maid, and not only did you bring this pharmacist from the north, you're also running after him with your tail, without telling me anything about it. You haven't changed in any way, still as brazen. A new day, morning, Carrie is standing at the window, the maid brings her medicines. Oh, Miss Hilda, you're awake now, I've brought you some herbs. Come on, well, it tastes disgusting, but it's nothing, since it helps me. Medicines are medicines. You're right, how is our doctor? Urko's doctor? Memories of yesterday and his good deeds were spinning in my head. I think he's naive, although maybe too smart, but still, we definitely need to keep an eye on him. Yes, that's right. By the way, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you, you have a letter from Miss Griselda and Dr. Urko. Chapter 10. Griselda and Urko were standing in the castle library. Urko, maybe you need to replenish your supply of medicines? Medicines from the north are already running out. It would be very convenient if we replenish the stock, because there are a whole lot of other herbs suitable for treatment. Listen, I got the idea that you can put testing experiments on the health and well-being of the hostess. No, miss, don't you talk nonsense. I'm trying to help her as much as possible. The fact is that in the southern part, it's quite problematic to find the right herbs, which is even worse, high quality. Even that cart, he brings household things like food and a basic first aid kit. I mean that for a good effect, we can find only a part of the necessary medicines for decoction. There is a suggestion for you, Urko, maybe you should find help, a young guy who will do this part of the work. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't really want to be in the public eye all the time. So, since the conditions are such, then I have the right person. In the kitchen, Carrie was preparing lunch. Urko told about the upcoming replenishment of the castle. What kind of girl is this? Excellent, she does her job wonderfully. Moreover, she is Miss Griselda's sister. Most likely she told you about her. Well, I'm not sure, but I probably did. So, let's interrupt this dialogue. Let me ask you, what are you cooking? Well, it's not exactly clear, but I think lemon pie. Griselda flew into the kitchen. Dr. Urko, your medicines and herbs have delivered what you wanted. What? How soon? It's only been half an hour. Come on, let's go soon. Sorry, off topic, but what's on the table? I understand this is Carrie's work? She said lemon pie. Listen, Urko, when my sister's name was mentioned, I couldn't even think this is exactly the person you trust the most. It's strange that you decided to invite her to the castle. And you are not happy about it. More communication with a loved one for you. The first person I told about my work was her. And do you know what advantage there is? She also works in a medicine shop. That's where she can get us the necessary and missing herbs. My doubts about her, because of her age. Can we trust her? Urko, you know, you look happy about the news of a new employee. When you are surrounded by strangers, it's hard, and so I will see a familiar person. In addition, she ran after me around the village, and very often helped. Don't you think she's in love with you? Carrie, what are you talking about? She's like a sister to me. They went out into the yard, there was a horse standing there, and a fragile girl. Anna? Urko? I'm so glad to see you. It's been so long since I've seen you. I want to discuss so much with you, but what pleases me the most is your appearance. You look like a fresh cucumber, and in general, what's interesting about the castle? What happened here? By the way, your work suit, it suits you, and I'm glad that you have remained as beautiful and inquisitive. Thank you for your lightning reaction. You didn't expect that we would call you to us. Anna's gaze darted to her sister. Griselda, you came so quickly. So, listen, Dr. Urko, your task is to sort out the herbs so that everything is fine with them, and you, Anna, we are not playing with toys here. When you finish working, come right back. Urko, and what kind of a nice lady is around you? Ah, this is the mistress's servant, Carrie. She already knows about you. What a beauty you are, just super. I'm so glad to see you. Aha! Carrie moved closer to Anna's face. So you're in love with Urko? What are you talking about? No, Anna, I'm sorry, I don't know where she got it from. She probably made it up. Would you like a lemon pie? Anna looked at her. Her whole face was covered with a red blush. Her thoughts were spinning that this Lady Carrie was very tactless. The man from behind called them, and rejoiced at Anna's arrival. Oh, cook, it's you. I got a job here recently, but I noticed that no one ever goes here. In honor of such an event, I cooked something delicious. Thank you very much. As I understand it, I was mistaken, thinking that Urkin, the only kind person in this castle. I would really like to see my son. I miss him, but recently he had an oath. Now he is a warrior of the capital. I imagine how happy he would be to learn that I work in a place with Miss Griselda. She is a horseman. What, Ryder, what are you talking about? Don't you know about them? The honor of being a horseman went to only 5 people, and I don't want to brag, but my Griselda, among them all, is the youngest. Wow, very cool. By the way, cook, congratulations for your son. It's an honor, a warrior son. Thanks. Anna, let me take you on a tour of the castle. Chapter 11. A lake in the forest on a sunny day is an incredible sight that makes the heart stop. It seems to be lying in the arms of nature, surrounded by green trees and shrubs that are reflected in its smooth surface. The water in the lake is calm and transparent, like a mirror that reflects the beauty of the world around us. The sun shines brightly in the sky, and its rays penetrate through the branches of trees, creating a play of light and shadow on the surface of the lake. The water seems to play its own music, which reminds us that there are places in this world where you can enjoy the moment and forget about problems and worries. Anna, be careful, it's very deep there. I suggest you relax, there is an ideal edge for a break, and from the basket it smells like baking. Urko, do you understand that you shouldn't be doing this? Carrie, what are you talking about now? That son of a cook, what difference does it make to you? And anyway, it seems to me that you don't care about the soldiers, you don't like them at all. Why did you congratulate them on the oath? Anna blushed at Carrie's awkward and tactless question. She thought that Urko, since he is from the north, is hard to talk about such topics. Anna, everything is fine, there are a lot of them here, you need to understand the situation, and life will be easier, because there is no war anymore. You're so noble, do what you want. Anna is just worried about me. Urko plunged into his thoughts, realizing that he was under the power of warriors. If you do not take into account the fact that the mistress of the castle owns it, as such an important person, so also a warrior, fell ill with this rare and strange disease, and sent a rider for me to be her doctor, why did they choose a northerner? That's because you're a great professional. I am very pleased, but don't you think that more experienced doctors could have found such an influential person, and also, you said that doctors from their capital went here, but we can draw conclusions, they could not find medicines, but I could. I do not understand what kind of disease, since even the most experienced did not know how to cope with it. Carrie started thinking about her illness, she assured herself that it was a curse, and all she could do was just put it on pause, because if it's a disease, then why is there no diagnosis? Through her thoughts, she whispered, this is some kind of magic spell. What makes you think that? To be honest, I don't know why I think so, but just something inside me tells me that it is. Carrie, you know this, you know the hostess personally, you saw her and communicated, yes. Anna, keep your mouth shut, I'll be silent, and you Urko, don't pretend you're not listening, I can see your face and how interested you are. My sister and you, Carrie, are so wonderful, so if I were you, knowing who this hostess is, I wouldn't be able to keep silent. When I think I know her personally, I already want to tell everyone what she is, how you hold up like that. To be honest, I was so surprised when I found out that you are sisters. Even now, I know it perfectly well, but I still can't get used to it, you are so different. Well, she probably doesn't talk about me. You're completely right, you never told me at all. Ah, it's clear, Carrie, stop being rude. No, Urko, everything is fine, her job is here, she knows how to divide priorities perfectly, and watch her language. Unlike me, I tell everyone what a cool sister I have. By the way, I've never been here, I'll be very secretive, I won't even tell mom and dad, but, by the way about the parents, they are different with us. Different, so you're not? Griselda, her mother, my aunt, and my father, my aunt's husband, but they died soon after her birth, and my parents took her to themselves, and she began to fight when I was not even 5 years old. Maybe because of this she does not tell anyone about me, she does not perceive me my sister, and I understand that she doesn't let me into the castle because she doesn't trust me. Anna, you're wrong, she's just hiding it because she works at a serious job. Urko is telling the truth, she's just worried about you, and wants everything to be fine with you. Everyone who works here doesn't pay attention to all the secrets of this castle, and the fact that it can be dangerous, because it's very quiet and calm here. But doesn't it seem to you that she wouldn't take you to help Urko, if she didn't consider you a reliable and loyal person? I think she's too smart to take risks in vain. Also, it was you who praised the pharmacist. She always does as she sees fit herself, and here, she listened to you, and did as you said. Anna has flashbacks where Griselda says that she trusts her. You know, Anna, I wouldn't hide such a sweet sister like you from the part. I even envy her, because you're adorable. Carrie, what came over you? You said so many kind words, I'm shocked. But I wasn't joking, this promise, it's not some kind of darkness, but really a place with a lot of secrets. It's time for me. Stay with Anna. Where do you have to go? Where are you going? There are remedies for mice in the castle, you need to check. Chapter 12. Heavy footsteps quietly and slowly walked through the corridors of the estate. The sounds of rattling dishes seemed to beat against the walls, and they were accompanied by a creaking floor and the rustling sole of shoes. But the usual trampling and creaking, which went in time with each other, suddenly interrupted the sound from the outside. A light female step was heard from the side. The servant tensed from what he heard, as a languid female voice was suddenly added to everything. Guzdal, the voice called the servant quite firmly, and at the same second forced the hands to weaken with the help of fear and let out all the dishes, which led to even more noise than it was before. "Oh, my God, you scared me. Don't sneak up on me like that anymore," said the servant, convulsively collecting dishes on the floor. "Didn't you go out to rest?" "I came back so fast." "Yeah, hi." The girl answered with a haughty look and continued, "They say the lady cut her hand. I was ordered to bring ointment and bandages." The old servant turned to her and asked with feigned surprise, "Yes? The lady's hand?" The girl, interested in surprise, asked suspiciously, "Yes? And what?" To which the embarrassed man is allegedly hiding something, stuttering and stammering, trying to find the softest answer. Nothing. I'm already going to look." And heads in the opposite direction from the girl. "Where did the bandages go?" he adds, feeling the girl's instant malicious gaze on him. "Why are you surprised? I thought the lady could heal the wound in an instant because she is a knight of the sun." And then her hand quickly went to his neck. "Who sent you? Northerners don't usually do that." Almost suffocating, the man shrouded in fear tries to say at least the old man sitting in front of her did not expect such a reaction. He was stunned and looked at her with bewilderment. His cheek turned red, leaving a mark on it from her palm. "Yeah. Clearly, then it was King Mormode's. Did you decide to become a spy so that your son would be knighted? Did you know that if Mormodes makes your son a knight, then I can kill him and no one will know about it?" said the girl with eyes burning with anger. The servant's eyes were round with fear, drops of cold sweat dripped down his face. "So, what am I talking about? What for? Am I of no use to Mormodes now?" the girl asked. "Be this. It's not like that at all. His Majesty is just worried about you, madam," the man said in a hoarse voice. "Worried? Pharmacist, he's from the north, right? Which means he probably hates you, mistress. What would he do if the lady's identity was revealed? And His Highness, in this case," the servant shouted in a sobbing voice. He had nothing left to lose. Kaya abruptly released her hand and began to laugh. The man was finally able to take a breath, but he was no longer able to say anything. Barely breathing, he lay against the wall without strength and looked into the void. The girl continued to laugh loudly. "Ha! I'm in a good mood today, so I'll spare you. Run away. And hide better. Better get rid of the thought of a quiet life in Mormorat. If Mormodes has revealed to you the secret of my identity, then he is not going to leave you alive after completing the task," said the girl. The servant, barely breathing, crawled to the exit. Tears were streaming down his cheeks. Mormodes. That's why you're always sticking your nose in," Kaya thought. Night enveloped the castle. Darkness covered the entire building and only moonlight filtered through the window. "Kaya," a voice came from the other end of the hall. "Griselda. Where's your sister? I'm going to see her off." "But besides," Griselda grabbed Kai's shoulder sharply. The girl looked at her with a questioning look. She heard the new cook had run away. "What happened?" "Oh, this one," the girl answered indifferently. "Well, I'll explain now. By the way, Griselda, why didn't you tell me you had a sister?" "I felt that it was not necessary to say this, serving under you," the girl said cautiously. "However, to my mind, I've already told you several times. I guess I just missed it," thought Kaegon. Gently crackled in the martial arts hall, filling the room with warmth. The sound of iron weapons thundered loudly on the walls. "I see you move just as clumsily." The Lord Sir suddenly appeared, totally devoted. "Sir, are you on your way to meet His Majesty?" Theriane asked. "Right. Go get ready. You finally got the assignment." Therion, the Lord said in an important tone. Chapter 13. The wind rustled over the estate, blowing the gray-haired knight's hair. She was surprised at how quiet it was this morning. The girl who was walking with her in the park noted the glorious weather. Griselda asked what Kai's maid was doing. The girl told her that Kaya was trying to chop firewood with her father's servants. She was clearly doing it perfectly. Griselda thought that the improvement in the health of the lady was temporary, given that it was unknown from what or when the next complication would arise, and she was also not sure that Lady Hildegard and Elkin could be left unattended. It would be wisest to find out what caused the disease, then get rid of Elkin and try to find a cure yourself. But it's easy to talk about it, but it's hard to do. The girl walking next to her started and called Griselda. In the distance, there was a growing clatter of hooves. Someone on horseback was approaching the castle. The horses were fast and well-groomed, galloped fast and stopped just as abruptly. Seeing the face of the first rider, Griselda was greatly surprised. A mixture of surprise and resignation was read on her face. The rider was Lord Albert, a slender man with gray hair on his temples. His eyes shone with courage and bravery. The robe flowed smoothly over his shoulders, and the red and black skin-tight suit emphasized his muscles. He held the reins in his hands, completely controlling the horse, from which he had not yet managed to get off. Worried, Griselda rushed to him with a question about what had brought him here, even without notice. The maid, who was nearby all this time, clearly did not know who it was specifically, so she clarified whether it was really Lord Albrecht, who commands the Knights of Emmerich. Griselda nodded in confirmation. The girl lowered her head in a bow. The Lord turned to Griselda. He noted with a slight mockery that they had not seen each other for a long time, and that she should allocate at least a few days to communicate with people living in such a wilderness. This harsh expression sounded irritating to Griselda. She was clearly not pleased that the Lord had arrived uninvited, and that he should be warned about his arrival in advance, and if he arrives unexpectedly, he does not need special treatment. Griselda said all this in an indifferent, cold tone. The Lord replied that this trip also came as a surprise to him. Griselda was surprised by this answer, and the Lord meanwhile decided to introduce his companion, who seemed to come out of the darkness from behind. His name was Therion. Therion took a deep breath and shouted, "It is an honor to meet you, Lady Griselda. My name is Therion Viden." He was a red-haired guy with a bright character. He stood motionless, his fist pressed to his chest. Griselda was not impressed. Therion could not take his eyes off her. In his eyes she looked majestic and formidable. This was not unreasonable, because Griselda Elba, the first sword, was standing in front of him. She is one of the 5 horsemen, as well as the commander. He had heard that after the war she voluntarily took a low position, but he did not know that she would end up here. Therion was literally glowing from being next to her, but Griselda was more worried about the unexpected arrival of the Lord. The Lord suggested going somewhere to discuss everything. They chose a library for discussion. A library is a place where everyone can find something interesting for themselves. This is a room where books on a variety of topics are collected, from children's fairy tales to scientific works, but also this room was the quietest in the whole castle. Griselda was taken aback by what the Lord had told her, to get Therion into the castle. Lord Slow sipped wine from a goblet. It was obvious that he didn't give a damn about Griselda's bewilderment. The Lord's statement also alerted Griselda. He had never interfered in the affairs of the castle before. She didn't understand what this man might have in mind. Therion widened. It turns out that he is a relative of the nephew, Griselda realized. The Lord replied in the affirmative, adding that the guy was accompanying him as a personal coachman, but the war was over and he could not send him to the Western Front, where conditions, to put it mildly, were bad. He had a brilliant idea to put him under Griselda's guidance. He literally beamed when he thought about it. The night girl, on the contrary, was not happy about this turn of events. Suddenly she asked an unexpected question for the Lord. Does he know who the owner of the castle in which they are? After a short silence, the man replied that he knows, but his relative does not know, so everything will be fine with the lady. Even if Therion had known, he wouldn't have dared to do anything, the Lord added. Therion, meanwhile, was waiting at the stairs on the first floor. He felt out of place, feeling the stares of uncomprehending servants who did not know who he was. Let's go back to the library, where Lord and Griselda continued their dialogue. The man asked how the Duchess was doing. After all, she is the hero of the Empire, it is important that everything is fine with her. Griselda thought for a moment, she doubted whether it was better to answer the Lord. Yes, everything is fine, the girl began to speak. Then footage of a recent conversation with the Duchess popped into her head. They were talking about how Hudsell turned out to be a spy from the king. Moreover, it is far from the first. Old man Mordodes, aka the king, constantly watches and manipulates the owner of the castle, even after the war. Remembering this, Griselda frowned. Perhaps the lord's nephew was another figurehead on the king's chessboard. She asked the lord if the king had really given the go-ahead for Therian's appointment to this position. The lord smiled, but there was no sincerity or kindness in that smile. It was a grin, similar to the way the devil smiles, looking at how his victims are suffering. He measured Griselda with a condescending, caustic look, paused, as if waiting for the right moment, and said briefly, "Yes." Therian still continued to stand at the list box, and did not even guess what these two were talking about in the library. Then rustling and heavy breathing began to reach his ears. The source was clearly the kitchen. Therian looked around, assessing how big the castle looked. The sounds from the kitchen were getting louder, more and more attracting the attention of the guy. He came closer and noticed the servants near the entrance to the kitchen. It was a woman in a white headscarf who was talking to someone. Coming closer, he saw her interlocutor. She was the lady of the manor, who pretended to be a servant. A beautiful girl with red hair and golden eyes is a real example of female beauty. Her hair is like fire, bright and thick, glowing in the sun. Her eyes are golden like the rays of the sun, luminous and mysterious. Her skin is snow-white and smooth, like a marble statue. Her lips are red like rose petals, alluring and seductive. Her figure is graceful and slender, like a ballerina on stage. She is like the heroine of a novel, mysterious and beautiful, as if created to make men fall in love with her. She seemed to have a magical power that attracts looks and admiration to her. She looked sharply at the guy. There was a question in her gaze, and Therian could not help but look at her. He was amazed by what he saw. Chapter 14. His cheeks were flushed, he looked very cute, but he still couldn't find the right words. "Good morning, it's hot today," the young man blurted out, shuddering. The Duchess looked at him with an even, meaningless gaze. The guy closed his eyes, bowed and introduced himself. When he raised his head, there was no one around. The girl seemed to have disappeared to no one knows where. Therian froze, he didn't know what to do. But then the voice of Lorad, his uncle, came from the corridor, loud and confident. He was talking about putting Therian under Griselda's guidance. Therian took another look at the empty kitchen and ran after his uncle. He was about to leave, his work at the estate was over and there was no point in staying. He informed Therian that he was staying at the manor and would study with Lady Griselda. This pleased the guy, he could only dream about it. He bowed, as a sign of respect to his uncle, who was his commanding officer. The lord smiled and in the next second abruptly leaned towards the guy. "Don't forget why you're here." Therian smiled a sly smile, apparently they had it in the family. The lord grinned, jumped on the horse and ordered her to go. Therian and Griselda remained standing together. Despite the dark plan, he was still happy to learn from Griselda, at least it seemed so. The lady clearly did not like this prospect, but she had no other choice. She was as gloomy as a cloud. She was haunted by a lot of things, so now this understudent has fallen on her head. She ordered him to follow her. She remembered that the Lord had said that Therian did not know what the Witch of the Sun looked like, but still she would try to make sure that he crossed paths with her as rarely as possible. "Lady Griselda, when I was inspecting the castle, I met a girl with red hair," the guy said. Griselda froze, her heart contracted, and her whole body tensed. "I wanted to ask what her name is," he added confusedly and his cheeks flushed red again. Griselda realized that he clearly liked her, the whole situation around her was becoming more and more complicated and tense. They entered the castle. Endless staircases, chandeliers hanging from the ceilings and green plants created a certain atmosphere. Lady Griselda told Dorian that there is not much to do in the castle, since it is located far away and rarely anyone passes by, so he needs to do everything as usual. One rule is to put the safety of the castle above all else. Then they came across the servants. Lovely women warmly welcomed Griselda and her new ward. They were very interested and bombarded her with questions. They said he was very cute, so tall and handsome. They also noted that there are more and more people in the castle. Chapter 15. Dorian was at a loss how the northerner could get into the castle, how this could happen at all. Millions of thoughts were spinning in his still young head. He noticed a knife in the belt of the uninvited, in his opinion, guest. He is clearly a danger, the guy thought, most likely he wants to kill the Knight of the Sun. He immediately rushed after Lady Griselda, but after a few meters he stopped. The words that this slender, strong female knight had recently said sounded in his head. Anyone who sneaks into the castle without my approval, or anyone who arouses suspicion, should be punished immediately. Determine the punishment yourself. Dorian swallowed nervously. Here it is the moment of making the necessary and quick decision, and it came right away. He threw himself into the attack. Don't move, stranger, he shouted. The northerner shuddered and turned around. Behind him stood a fierce warrior-minded Dorian, clenching one hand into a fist, and the other holding a sword. He slowly began to draw his sword from its scabbard, asking the stranger questions one by one, without giving him an answer. The guy with golden hair and a sword in his hand looked dangerous. He was ready to attack at any moment. At that moment, he looked like a hero of chivalric novels, ready to fight for his honor and the honor of his lord. His sword is sharp and shiny, ready to cut through any obstacle in its path. The northerner was amazed. He clearly did not expect that the gathering of herbs would end with an attack. A mute question froze on his face, his eyes were clouded with a snake, and his hands were shaking. Let's go back to the events of this morning. The healer Erkin, aka the northerner, went to the forest near the castle to collect herbs. He wandered all day, looking at the plants. Finally finding the right one, he took out a knife to carefully cut it. Just at that moment Tarian caught him. Let's get back to this point. Everything was calm, the leaves rustled in the wind. The bird singing in the tree was a real musician of nature. Her song was beautiful and melodious, like a ringing bell that sounded in silence. She was an ornament of the forest, which brought joy and inspiration to everyone who heard her. However, Tarian's sudden gloss startled her. Her song became choppy and uncertain, as if she had lost her confidence and calm. Her voice began to tremble, and she stopped singing. The situation in the clearing continued to heat up. The knight was not inclined, and the knife in Erkin's hands, which he took out to cut the plant, only provoked him. Dorian rushed at the northerner and with a quick movement of his sword knocked the knife out of his hands. Wait, you can hurt yourself like that, Erkin said. But Dorian did not listen to him. He raised his sword to strike the next blow, but hit a tree. Erkin realized that he had to run, but he caught on a tree root and fell. His attempts to return to the sanity of the assailant were pointless. Dorian struck another blow, this time on the healer's arm. Blood spilled in red drops on the green grass. Only at that moment Erkin realized that this was not a joke and they were really trying to kill him. Suddenly, out of nowhere appeared the same girl that Dorian had seen in the castle today. With a possible punch to the stomach, she knocked the knight off his feet. Everyone was in a frenzy of surprise except her. Kaya, in turn, calmly sank to the ground. Erkin, are you hurt? What is it? She asked. Miss, this man is dangerous, please step away from him, Tarian said in a strangled voice, trying to get up from his knees. What's the matter with you? The girl screamed, are you crazy? You tried to kill the lady's doctor. At first Tarian was confused, but then he realized what a situation he was in. A cold shiver went through his whole body. Did you say doctor? Chapter 16. How? I've been away for a while, and you've already managed to get into trouble? Griselda was scolding Theriana when the three of them returned to the castle. I am very ashamed, I apologize, I deserve to be punished. Griselda exhaled heavily. No, I'm also to blame for not explaining the situation in advance. Tarian looked not only guilty, but really depressed and ready for any punishment. Kaya was bandaging Erkin's wound at that moment. "That's enough for me, Kaya, the blood is no longer flowing. Are you sure you're okay? You can still make medicines?" "Of course, they didn't cut off my hand." Kaya scrutinized Erkin's bandaged arm. "Funny," the guy said, "you're usually so reserved, but I didn't think you'd be so worried, Kaya. Are you an idiot?" "Of course I will." And all she had in mind was that without him, she would start feeling the pain of the curse again. But she couldn't say it out loud, so she only mentioned that she would be in trouble if he got hurt. The girl's accidentally spoken words made Erkin blush. He had no idea what was really going on. Giselda clarified whether everything was fine with his hand. She apologized for what had happened, because Thurian was under her care. The misunderstanding was resolved and Griselda introduced the knight and the healer to each other. There was an awkward silence between them, but Thurian spoke first. "It seems there has been a slight misunderstanding. Am I Thurian Viden? I'm Erkin. You're a big guy, but you're clumsy for a long time. Don't you Northerners learn the basics of self-esteem? Maybe you Southerners should learn to distinguish friend from enemy?" This phrase clearly hurt Tarian. "You're really clumsy," Kaya said. Thurian entered into a dialogue more, because this could lead to a conflict, and it was not to his advantage, so he just silently looked from the side and reasoned. "I wonder if this is the reason why the commander sent me here? What's the deal? Not just anyone, but the Knight of the Sun herself decided to bring this Northerner as her doctor? Does he even know who his patient is? And that the Knight of the Sun is sick? If this is true, then a mess will reign in the country. Is it really normal to leave everything as it is? Don't forget your mission, Thurian. All this information confuses me. You are here for another. The true identity of the Knight of the Sun and her illness is the key to revealing all the information." He decided to keep an eye on Erkin. Kaya noticed Tarian staring at Erkin. When the knight and the girl crossed glances, a wave of anger and hatred for his existence alone hit him. Tarian's poor heart was broken. He will at all costs decide to improve his image in the eyes of Kai and get to know her better. Griselda, looking at the whole situation, could only cluck dissatisfied. All she wanted was to return to that calm morning. The night took its toll. A dark moonlit night is a reminder that the world is not always bright and colorful. This is the time when the moon is hidden behind clouds, and darkness envelopes everything around. Darkness is like a veil that hides all the contours and details of the world. Only the faint glow of the stars and the moon penetrates through the night haze, creating a mysterious and mystical atmosphere. A dark moonlit night is a time when everything seems possible and mysterious. On this night, you can hear the rustle of leaves and branches that move in the wind. You can see shadows that glide across the ground like living creatures. That was exactly what it was tonight. A mysterious man in a robe covering his entire face entered the Lord's office. He clearly didn't want to be seen. The Lord was standing in the middle of the room, holding a candle in his hands. He realized with a start that the man had come with news from Thurian. The man in the robe confirmed the Lord's thoughts that the Knight of the Sun was ill and brought a Northerner as a doctor. A serious illness of unknown cause, which struck the immortal body, which was blessed by the Sun God and the Northerner. The Lord summed up his thoughts. Sinking into a chair, "Do you happen to know what happened 8 years ago when the Knight of the Sun disappeared? 8 years ago there was a battle on the plains of Kantala. The Knight of the Sun suddenly disappeared during the battle and the army of Mormarata suffered a crushing defeat in a series of battles. There was talk that she had been captured in the north, or that the Sun God had returned to heaven. But I know that the Knight of the Sun soon returned to us without a scratch, and after that she continued to win battles and brought the north to its knees for 3 years. This is a well-known fact. I need more people. More mercenaries. Give preference to those who are good at intelligence and know how to keep secrets. I need to find something. Send them to the place where the Knight of the Sun disappeared 8 years ago. To the northern border. To the plains of Kantala. Somewhere in the forest there was a lonely house. This is a mysterious place. He stood at the edge of the forest, like an island in an ocean of snow. There are no traces of life around him, only the snow-white cover of the forest and the sky, which seems to merge with the earth. However, there is still life inside the house. A fire is smoldering in the fireplace, which creates comfort and warmth in the house. There is a cup of hot tea on the table. There is a sense of comfort and warmth in the house, although its inhabitants had a hard time. The wife and the baby were waiting for the father of the family, and finally the door opened and he appeared on the threshold, covered in snow and with a reddened face from the cold. He was holding a catch in his hands. Once again it was just a few small fish, which clearly wouldn't even be enough for dinner. At that time, the war had been going on for 20 years. Because of her, even the animals escaped from the mountain on which the forest was located. The family understood that in the end they would have to move too, because it was becoming more difficult to survive in such conditions every day. Dear, Erkin is about to become an adult. It is too unreasonable to continue taking care of him just because you are the village headman. I understand, but even if he's grown up, he still doesn't know how to hunt. His parents taught him only to read and understand herbs. I still can't forget his face when I told him about the death of his parents. In addition, many people in our village have become healthier thanks to his parents. At least I want to repay him for their kindness. I know, I want it too, but our supplies are almost over and our children are still small, they need to be well fed. I'd better ask Dialects to take care of Erkin this winter. They have already moved and headed for the coast. People are leaving the village one by one, because it's hard to live here. Then I'll ask Erkin if he wants to try living in another village. They didn't know that Erkin had been standing outside the door all this time and had heard everything. He did not wait for a conversation with the village headman and left by himself. Only the footprints on the white snow reminded him that he was here, but large flakes of snow hid this mention of the existence of the boy. Erkin reached the forest and a village boy called out to him, "Where are you going?" The boy asked, "Will you also go to the sea, where there is a lot of food?" "Do you know? Rumor has it that a giant monster lives in the sea. I was thinking of going south. Is there a sea monster there too?" "Well, I do not know, but there are many other things. For example, fancy nobles, knights who are not afraid of death, and a witch, perhaps. Do you want to meet a witch?" Erkin did not answer this question, only asked the boy to take care of himself and left. He left in search of a better life. The castle gate is a majestic and powerful structure that protects it from external threats. They are high and massive, huge walls that protect the castle from any attacks. It is a symbol of power and might, which makes you respect the castle and its inhabitants. They are like the entrance to another world, which hides a lot of mysteries and secrets. The knight who stands near the gate is a symbol of protection and loyalty. Who is ready to protect the castle and its inhabitants from any threats. The knight who stands near the gate is the guardian who is responsible for the security of the castle. He looks like a real hero, ready to fight for his honor and his land. His armor is like an armor that protects him from any blows. His sword is sharp and shiny, ready to cut through any obstacle in its path. He is a guardian who will not allow anyone to get inside the castle. His eyes are serious and resolute, as if he is ready for any challenges and trials. His figure is tall and slender, like a statue carved from marble. The Rian appeared behind the knight, who was clearly bored to wander alone in the vicinity of the castle. He cleared his throat and praised the soldier for his faithful service, as if someone needed it. The guardian did not react in any way. Then the Rian tried to start a dialogue with him, offering his help, but he received a dry short answer. It was as if an iron wall had grown up between them. Realizing that he had no one to talk to here, the knight went on. Just as he was leaving the gate, a pretty girl on a horse drove into them. "You, stop," he commanded her. "This is not a place where a child can wander. Tell me what brought you here? And what's in your bag?" Hi. I brought the goods that Erkin ordered." "Erkin," the knight asked, "that northerner is a pharmacist? I can't believe he's working with such a small child. I didn't expect anything else from this useless fool." Rian said it all haughtily and dismissively. The girl who had just arrived at the castle flushed with anger. "Sir Knight, you seem to like picking on a child who is weaker than you, don't you?" Erkin's voice rang out. He was a tall, strong man with dark hair, the epitome of courage and strength. He looks like the hero of a romance novel. His height is above average, his physique is athletic and fit, as if he is ready for any physical challenges. His dark hair is like a thick head of hair, which gives him mystery and attractiveness. His eyes are deep and dark, as if they hide a lot of secrets and riddles. The clothes he wears are simple and functional. He does not care about fashion trends, but only about comfort and practicality. He is ready for any challenges, and his clothes should be prepared for this. However, his strength and courage are only one side of his personality. He can also be sensitive and caring, ready to help family and friends in any situation. His appearance is just a wrapper that hides his kind heart and sensitive nature. The girl immediately blossomed at the sight of him. We all remember that she clearly likes him. The Rian was not thrilled with such a reaction towards the person he hated. Are you trying to act like a noble knight on a white horse right now? The knight decided to hurt him. Who knows? But I don't think Aneta needs to be saved when she can calmly resist you. Erkin replied, taking the bag that the girl had brought. A pitiful northerner like you dares to defy an imperial knight? Hey, do you really want me to cut off your hand? The Rian was clearly crossing the border. You can try it. Erkin wasn't going to give in. The situation had escalated to the possible limit. It seemed that it was worth bringing a lighted match to them, as they would light up once. Annette was clearly at a loss. She did not know why the altercation started so abruptly, and what to do to stop it. Chapter 18. Stop, that's enough. Griselda intervened in their exchange. She generously rewarded both guys with kicks, saying that they should not be left for a minute. Aneta came here on my behalf because of the request of the mistress, so don't be rude to her, Tarian. The knight only apologized guiltily, rubbing his bruised head. After all, Griselda was an amazing woman. In the blink of an eye she separated two fighting men. Well, I'll go back, since I've finished the goods safely. Wait, Aneta. If you have time, how about having a little chat with me in my room? There was only one emotion on Aneta's face: happiness. Her face seemed to glow. She was filled with energy and joy. Her cheeks are rosy, as if she just ran a marathon. Her gaze is filled with delight. Aneta's delight is something incredibly contagious. She seems to make everyone around smile and feel happy. Her energy makes the hearts beat faster and the blood run through the veins faster. A girl experiencing the emotion of delight can be sensitive and emotional, ready to share her emotions and feelings with loved ones. Kaya was going to her room with lunch when Tarian called her. He offered to bring lunch to the mistress instead of her, because he does not know that Kaya is the mistress, and should not know. He decided to follow her all the way to the room, but at the threshold she stopped him, saying that the search workers were forbidden to pass further. Kaya checked to see if he had left and only then entered the room. A girl with a low ponytail in a pink dress was sitting on a chair and reading. She looked like a beautiful and gentle creature. Her hair is long and smooth, like silk threads that end in a low ponytail. She looks like a princess from a fairy tale, ready to go to her world of fantasies and dreams. Her pink dress is like a cloud that surrounds her body and gives her even more tenderness and femininity. Her book is like a window into another world, which she is ready to explore and learn. The room in which she is located is spacious and bright, with huge windows that let in a lot of light. She is in the corner of the room, as if she is looking for solitude and peace to read her book. There is silence in the room, which allows her to concentrate on reading and on her thoughts. God, you brought lunch in person, she said, noticing Kaya. Let's eat together. How dare I force the lady to serve me food? Heaven will punish me for it. That shaggy blonde guy keeps getting on my nerves. It's so obvious that he came by order of the king. He's so easy to read, but it confuses me whether he's sly or just dumb. I can't mindlessly kill him because he's the nephew of the knight commander. Fortunately, he does not know that Miss Kaya is a mistress, unlike the cook from the last time. Perhaps Coral didn't tell the commander about it. He is a relative of the Imperial Knight Commander. The Sun Knight can't get rid of him easily. The king can also get information only from him, so he can't be eliminated. That old fart just made it harder. Why is the king trying so hard to hide your identity, lady? Because he is afraid of my growing influence among his followers or that I might collude with his enemies. He got his current position by using me. He's trying to completely isolate me by holding me in his arms. Wyden. An outstanding family from the south, they are to be feared. If you think about it, even though the Wyden managed to make a big contribution to the Northern War by sending their knights, they also lost a lot because of it. They continue to lose heirs of the family. Considering the age of Seitharion, he must have lost a lot of brothers and sisters. Duyan kept walking around the castle all this time and thinking, it looks like everyone suspects me of something. In this situation, how can I gather information? Wait, here it is. If I could find out what medications the lady is taking, would find out what disease she is suffering from. Full of determination, he ran to bring his idea to life. His first target was Erkin. She bumped into him right in the hallway. Do you need any help? Erkin abruptly slammed the door, but Thurian had no intention of backing down. How dare you close the door when I'm talking to you? I kindly extended a helping hand, but how dare you treat me like this? Please stop. Lady Griselda ordered me not to let anyone into the pharmacy. Thurian fell into a stupor, but only for a second. Okay, I stopped. See? God, don't play hard to get. Well, that's not the only reason I came. Miss Kaya, I want to know what kind of person is she? If she's a lady-in-waiting, then she must be from a less noble family, right? She looks a little eccentric. It took Erkin a while to answer the knight at least something. Yes, she is quite unique, she communicates quite harshly with people and she is completely unperturbed. Nevertheless, she is a reliable and good person. At least she's definitely better than you. Having said that, Erkin slammed the door in Thurian's face, not letting him say a word. The knight was beside himself with rage, but he had no choice but to leave. He plunged into his thoughts again. This time pictures from the past began to pop up in his head. The servants treated him contemptuously, considered him a spoiled brat of a great family, he constantly got into trouble, no one wanted to deal with him. Chapter 19. Annette was carefully examining Griselda's room. It's been a few years since they lived together, but this is the first time she visits this place. She was very curious. She immediately noticed the mess in the room and it seemed funny to her, but as soon as she touched the stack of books, they immediately fell to the floor. I'm sorry I called you here so suddenly. Make yourself comfortable, Griselda said, then let's start. It's all right, I don't have anything to do either, Annette said, covering a stack of fallen books with herself. She was obviously nervous. Despite the fact that they were sisters, they talked quite rarely. Griselda never let Annette in here when she used to visit the castle. Most of the time she didn't even see her face because she was too busy, but now she invited her to her place and was silent. It made her nervous. Annette followed her sister's every action with her eyes and tried to guess what she wanted to talk to her about. Meanwhile, Griselda's thoughts were filled with the fact that she had nothing to talk about with her sister at all. She brought her only because the lady told her so. She started with a formal question. Are father and mother okay at home, no problems? Yeah. They were very happy when I told them the news about you, although it would have been better if you had come more often. I see. An awkward silence hung between them. To defuse the situation, Annetta said, I never thought I'd be able to get into this castle, but thanks to Elkin, it happened. Incredible, isn't it? In the past, you never let me in, remember? Really? That's how I treated you. Now I think about it, how do you know him? Did you meet him while working at the store? Annette's face turned red. She felt embarrassed by her sister's question. Me and Erkin, she didn't know what to say, but gathered her thoughts and continued, it was about 2 years ago. Annette was walking down the street holding a bag of herbs in her hands. Suddenly 2 men passed by her who were clearly indignant that they had met a northerner. She looked around and saw that a guy with dark hair was sitting near the bridge. He got lost, spent the last money to pay for the carriage, he didn't even have a place to spend the night, he was very tired and he didn't have the strength. He hoped to work in a shop with old acquaintances, but when he arrived in the south he was very disappointed, because the hatred for the people of the north was stronger than he thought. Annette's voice interrupted his thoughts. What are you doing there? She was looking down at him from the bridge. He thought she was going to swear too, but he greeted her politely. It looks like you're not a local, what happened? He began to explain. I came from the north, do you happen to know where Lindemann's shop is? I came to visit her, but I got lost. I didn't ask other people because they don't like me being around. Annette thought about it. Lindemann's shop is completely in the opposite direction from here. To get there you need to walk for a few more hours. Oh, thank you. Annette continued to look at him from below from the bridge. She was tormented by the question. Why is he always looking at the river? If you're hungry, do you want to eat it? And she handed him a sandwich. At that moment, she seemed to Erkin like a real angel descended from heaven. This sweet girl was handing him a sandwich and was absolutely generous, clean and kind compared to all the residents of this city. Initially, I cooked it to eat with my sister, but in the end I was escorted out of the castle, and I didn't even see her face. Erkin was clearly surprised. Can I really eat this? I can only hope that now his congress is someone else, said Annette. Right, you can tell me the story of your journey in return, but first let's introduce ourselves. I'm Annette Elba. My name is Erkin, thank you for your help. To be honest, I'm starving. Annette's cheeks turned a little red after hearing the gratitude from such a nice guy. You don't have a last name? We don't use a surname in the north, so as not to indicate our origin. Annette finished her story. So in a way, Griselda, we met because of you. I see. I heard that he lost his parents at an early age because of the war. Suddenly there was a knock on the door and a maid entered. I'm sorry, I didn't know you had a guest, but the lady is calling you for dinner. Annette, you can come with us, I think the lady will not mind. Annette was very happy. Griselda grinned sweetly at her sister's reaction. Chapter 20. Tyrion was very glad to see Kaya again. Miss Kaya, did you hear? Kaya, on the contrary, was not happy to see him and was not eager to talk to him. You again, did you hear what? While Lady Griselda's sister is still here, we'll have a banquet tonight for my welcome party. Miss Kaya, do you want to eat something tonight? Tyrion asked. The land in the south where my castle is located is fertile, and trade is flourishing, so we can easily purchase imported fruits, I hope someday. He did not have time to finish, because Kai's attention was attracted by Erkin, who entered the room. Tyrion was clearly not happy that the girl was not even interested in communicating with him and at the first opportunity exchanged him for the hated northerner. Kaya asked if he had finished sorting the herbs. Suddenly her gaze moved above Erkin's eyes, somewhere in the royan of his head, she noticed a blade of grass, but because of the guy's tall stature, she could not get it out in any way. She asked him to tilt his head and took out a blade of grass. Kaya looked very beautiful from this angle. She was so close that she made the guy feel embarrassed. Continuing their dialogue, the couple went to another room, leaving Tyrion alone once again. An accidentally thrown blade of grass, which Kaya removed from Erkin's hair, turned out to be a clue for Theotormon. He picked it up and decided to find out for the treatment of what diseases such herbs are used. Chandeliers under the ceiling illuminated the dining room with warm light. No one could believe that a banquet was being held in the castle. Kaya also decided to help, but her dish was, as always, to put it mildly, not very good. Griselda and Tyrion appeared in the doorway of the hall. She asked if everyone was gathered. It was worth waiting a little longer and Erkin, Annette and Kaya entered the hall. The table was bursting with food, which was just not there, various emaso, sausages, soup, fruits and all kinds of vegetables. Everyone was very happy with such a rich table. Erkin and Annette expressed special delight. Griselda and Erkin were calmly talking about some little things, until Tyrion decided to interfere in their conversation. He asked why Lady Griselda decided to stay in this castle. She only replied that she was following orders. No one will be able to object even if you receive an important mission from the royal palace. You destroyed those arrogant northern parasites, and your reputation grew while you defended the kingdom faithfully. The great battle of Kantala, the defense of Eppaldor, countless battles and indemnities, my brother was there too, just like my late brothers and Lady Griselda. I wanted to participate in the battle to get rid of them, but unfortunately the war ended when I was accepted as a knight. What a pity. It was clear that Tyrion was saying all this just to hurt Erkin, but the endurance of the northerner could only be envied. Despite the rage raging inside, he looked calm. Chapter 21. There was a heavy silence. Everyone felt that the atmosphere was tense to the limit because of Tyrion's words. Erkin, in turn, only said calmly, "Maybe we can talk about something else? Why not?" The knight persisted, "It's normal to talk about history at banquets. I don't want to argue the war with you. And I want, by the way, don't you feel guilty? After all, the Northerners were the first to violate the non-aggression pact and plundered the village near the southern border, right? It's not like that at all. It wasn't a robbery. Erkin shouted, on the contrary, this is the South. Long before everything happened, I was asleep and saw how to take minerals from the north. The Yin also lost his temper here, he forcefully hit the table with his fist. Yes, only you Northerners believe in this nonsense. Let's not talk about the war, this topic is not suitable for discussion at a banquet, in any case, it's all in the past. Therein was already unstoppable. Again, you're trying to pretend to be a good guy, if anything doesn't fit here, it's you bastard. Do you know what those bastards like you are called? Hypocrites. You must be here because you have no pride, and only flowers on your mind, you pretend to be a white and fluffy innocent lamb. You've done so much, and now you're saying this. Just looking at you makes me sick, and you say it's all in the past. Of course, Durian had no less reason to hate Northerners than Erkin had Southern soldiers, because most of his brothers died in the war, he lost his loved ones. Erkin got up from the table, his face filled with rage and hatred for the red-haired knight, but instead of starting a fight, he wished everyone a good appetite and left. It was the right decision, why start a conflict when there are so many people around? Besides, all these people wanted to enjoy the evening and a delicious dinner. It is unknown what reaction Tarian expected from others, but definitely not like this. After all, Kaya got up and went after Erkin. She didn't just get up and walk calmly, but ran, making Tarian blush even more. He gritted his teeth, but could not contain his rage and shouted, "Why are you all on his side?" Servants entered the hall attracted by loud shouts. Why did he come here at all? His anger was subdued by Griselda. Yes, he is a Northerner, but I want to ask, did Erkin cause harm to your family? No, but... Griselda did not let him finish. Besides, it was imprudent to say such a thing while living in the same place with a colleague. I never would have thought that I would hear something like this at a long-awaited dinner with my family. Of course, at first I was also suspicious of him. As you just mentioned, he is a Northerner, however, he doesn't even care that we are related to the royal family, and as a pharmacist, he is focused only on healing the lady. Isn't that enough to give him the right to be here? At least I don't think you have the right to interfere. Just because you're a knight doesn't give you the right to vent your anger on innocent people. That's not what I fought for. And how dare you use me as an excuse to bring up this topic? Griselda exhaled heavily. It will take some time to smooth over your dislike. Until then, I hope you can treat this world with care. Duyan felt ashamed, he apologized and thought that he had overreacted. It's not me you should apologize to, Griselda said. Meanwhile, Kaya was still looking for Erkin. She ran out into the street, it was night outside. The moon was shining brightly on her red shiny hair. Where could he have gone? There is a cliff near the castle wall, he is so careless that he could fall. The girl was clearly worried about the Northerner, but among the foliage she noticed his silhouette. Erkin stood motionless. Chapter 22. The dark night dominated everything around, and the shadows that fall on the grass on such nights can cause different emotions. They can be both intimidating and exciting. They can cause a feeling of incredible mystery, as if they hide a lot of secrets. But now Erkin absolutely does not care. Erkin was trying to recover his condition, breathing heavily. He heard footsteps behind him. Kaya, did you follow me? Why are you so sour? Let's go back to the castle. The girl turned to him. Everyone was so waiting for this banquet, they were preparing, and I took and upset everyone. I'm sorry, but I can't. Don't worry, Kaya reassured him, I'm just sorry for Annette, because she was so nervous that she couldn't eat a single piece. Stay here until you feel better. Erkin was still standing with his back to her. The girl thought about what she could do to make it easier for him. You know, I also like to wander at night. Erkin grinned, but the smile was only on his lips, his eyes remained dark and sad. The two of them stood in silence and looked at the starry sky. It was as if someone had passed by and scattered a bunch of stars out of the bag. They saw the Milky Way. The Milky Way is an incredible sight that makes the heart stop. It seems to stretch across the whole sky, like a giant bridge that connects us with infinity. The view of the Milky Way from the courtyard of the castle is an even more impressive sight that makes you feel small and insignificant. The Milky Way and the young couple who are looking at it are a symbol of beauty and tenderness, which makes them treat them with respect. They seem ready to go into their world of fantasies, dreams and long reflections about their lives. Kaya gazed up at the sky in fascination. The moonlight illuminated her red hair and golden eyes, giving them a slight bluish tinge. "Erkin," she said. "Do you remember the other day you asked me about my parents?" "To be honest, I don't remember them. I was separated from them when I was little, but they brought me to the Empire. For this reason I don't know the sadness of a lost family. I didn't understand why you guys were so angry. The only thing I remember from my childhood is a vague feeling that I don't belong here, that's all." The girl's last words fell heavily on the guy's heart. Yes, he understood what it meant to feel out of place, because he never had a place anywhere, not in his native village. After the death of his parents, he was left completely alone and there was no one to take care of him, let alone an unfamiliar southern city where most of the inhabitants hated Erkin just because he exists. "But I am quite happy with my current life," Kaya interrupted the flow of his endless thoughts. "Since you came here, the situation in the castle has changed. This is the first time they organize a banquet for a guest. I'm sure it wasn't easy for you to decide to help the lady of this castle. But madam, I have no doubt that she is very grateful to you for your help, even if she cannot say it in person." Erkin looked at her and thought, "No, I don't deserve her gratitude. Kaya doesn't know what intentions the northerner really has towards the lady. Do I even have the right to her gratitude? I was just trying to cling to the only chance to get close to someone from the royal family, but I must admit, I feel that I have found the place where I need it and it makes my soul feel better." They decided to return to the dining room. Erkin thought that Annette was crying in the hall after such a scandalous conversation between him and the knight. "You'll remember the sun, here's a ray." Approaching the hall, he crossed paths with Thurian. They exchanged hateful glances, but nothing. Turin stopped. "I went too far, I apologize for that. Are you just going to leave?" Banquets are rarely held in castles and there is already a lot of food on the tables. It would be rude to leave without tasting at least some of it. "Let's go back to the hall." Thurian sighed, but accepted Erkin's invitation. The tension between them subsided, and all it turns out was to step over yourself and apologize. Kaya was about to enter the hall, when suddenly Erkin very quickly approached and whispered in her ear, "Kaya, thank you." From this, the girl's heart began to beat very fast. She did not understand what was happening, she could only feel. Erkin realized that in the south there are people like Aneta and Kaya, people who help him voluntarily or who need his help. He shouldn't have vented his anger on the first person he came across for this. After all, there is already someone for this. Someone I won't forgive. He will not give up his revenge, only the Witch of the Sun will he harm. At dawn, when the sky was still painted in dark shades, and only the first rays of the sun were beginning to break through the clouds, a lone dove carried a message. He flew high above the city, as if looking for his addressee, and finally descended to leave his precious load. The pigeon was beautiful and powerful, with smooth feathers that glistened in the sun. He was tired from the long flight, but still continued to fly to deliver his important message. When he landed, he carefully descended to the windowsill and stayed there for a short time, waiting for the Lord. He brought the Lord a very important thing for him. It was the very blade of grass that Thurian had picked up.